of inability, abada, he was a slave, and a person who is unable arriving at one who is able. So ibadah, if we analyze it properly, is a state of lack, and it's yearning for growth from the one that can supply the lack and fulfill the need. And look at how wonderfully our master, the commander of the faithful, in his epic statement towards the end of that beautiful supplication, dua kumail, he states, and this is the epic conclusion to this dua, اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء. Forgive the one who does not own, who does not have the ownership of anything except dua. What is dua? It is a cry in which there is an acknowledgement that I am in need, and an acknowledgement that you are the one I call to because you are in possession. So the one who owns dua means what? The one who is in a state of poverty. And ibadah is a gesture of submitting to a growth promoting factor. So when Allah says, I have not created man and jinn except for worship, what He is saying is what the reality of our existence is. At every point we are in a state of worship. We can't be otherwise. In the denial of Allah is His acknowledgement. In acknowledging Allah, there is His acknowledgement. Where can we run to? Which path is there that does not lead to Allah? There is nothing but the embrace of Jalla Jalaluhu. And as our masters explain, the Sadrian camp and the likes of Faiz Kashani, who are both philosophers and Sufis or theosophers, they state that by God, in your gold and silver, in your Layla and paradise, there is nothing but the face of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. There cannot be anyone but that they are in the worship of Allah. How can it be otherwise? How can it be otherwise? Today, look at us. We want to understand what lies at the other side of the universe. Where is this yearning coming from? We are from Al-Alim, who knows no ignorance, and we can't help but be like the Alim. We want to know everything, even though it may be of no value or relevance at present. But we want to know, don't we? Because we are in His image and we try to emulate Him. We want to be all powerful, don't we? And at times we say, well, if we have armies, we are all powerful. If we have buildings, we are all powerful. If we have nations, we are all powerful. It is nothing but a gesture of submitting to growth-promoting factors. We want to live forever. Why? Because Allah is Hayy, la yamut. Allah is alive and shall never die. And hence we want to live forever. Allah is all-knowing, and hence we want to know everything. Allah is all-able and ability, so we want all ability. We can't do but emulate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through and through. This is the nature of our existence. When Allah says, I have not created man and jinn except that they should worship, what He is pointing at is a fundamental existentialist principle that we cannot be but in a state of surrender and worship to growth promoting factors. Now here, if we were to apply this to the inner self and talk of worship there, then that same principle which allows for us to cross external boundaries will allow us to rid us of our own inner lack and limitation. The only thing that can allow us to break our fixed identity is the inner state of worship, is the inner state of submission. And when we talk of the inner state of submission, we are really pointing at something so intimate, something so profoundly intimate that has escaped us most of the time throughout our understanding of Islam and our understanding of worship. You see, the Prophet had said that he who speaks during adhan, his 70 years of worship mean nothing. We asked the Prophet, for somebody to worship Allah for 70 years, they have to be 85 at least. Yes? After becoming baligh and whatever. Are you saying that a person who speaks during adhan at the age of 85, 70 years of his salah and siyam and hajj and zakat and khums and Quran and everything are null and void? The Prophet is saying yes. We say, how can that be justified? The answer is very simple. If me and you are here today, and if a king of kings were to arrive to this place, or a great scholar, what would we do? We would dare not speak. We would be behaved. We would be attentive to what this great man has to say. The Prophet is saying, had Allah meant anything to these people, at the mention of the name of Allah, Allahu Akbar, their hearts would have trembled in the awe of Allah. The very fact that they can speak when the name of Allah is mentioned shows that Allah does not mean anything to them, and hence their worship have not meant anything. If we understand that intimate level of ibadah, we will find that that is the only thing that can bring about this inner effacement, the destruction of the inner self, and the growth of a beautiful person. But it's such a hard thing. It's a very, very difficult thing. Ibrahim had to shock his people in order to allow them to revert to their true selves. How? What did he do? He went and he broke all the idols. Do you know what Ibrahim did was same as the destruction of the Twin Towers in America? It was no less than that. The shock that these people got. Imagine, there are a group of people who have made idols, and they are worshipping these idols, and they believe that these idols are responsible for governing the whole universe and their life. Imagine the shock that they incurred at the breaking of these idols. My goodness, what has happened? It was no less than the collapse of the Twin Towers in America. It was that shocking for these people. When they said, bring Ibrahim to us, let us question him, Ibrahim immediately said, ask the big one. He bears the axe. He has broken them. They said, Ibrahim, you know. No, immediately when Ibrahim said, ask the big one. He has broken them. That was so shocking, that statement. فَرَجَعُوا إِلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ. For the first time in their lives, Allah says, they reverted to themselves. And when they reverted to themselves, to the core of their being, they said, indeed we have been unjust. Indeed we have been unjust. At that point, the veils of the identities broke. And they reverted to the core of their beings. And they said, we have been unjust. And then, for Rajo, and then they quickly turned. And they said, Ibrahim, you know they do not talk. Or Allah gives another parable. He states, when they are on a ship caught in stormy waters, and the level of darkness is such that when they extend their hands, they cannot see them. At that point, they cry out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they say, if you were to save us, we shall not associate with you. And Allah says, as soon as we take them to the land, they go back into their old ways. It's a shocking experience that actually brings us to the core of ourselves, and that is where we need to be. That is exactly where we need to be. And if we can't come to that level, then there is no beginning.